On September 28, 2023, the peaceful streets of Constantia, one of Cape Town's richest neighborhoods, were suddenly filled with flashing lights and sirens. Police vehicles surrounded a high-end estate, and neighbors watched in disbelief. Inside that home was a woman who had ruled the underworld for years, Nicole Johnson, South Africa's most powerful female crime figure. Alongside her was her husband, Ralph Stanfield. Neither of them knew their time at the top was about to end. Nicole was never just someone's wife. She was a mastermind in her own right. While Ralph had a reputation in gang circles, Nicole matched his power with sharp thinking and fearlessness. She expanded their reach far beyond illegal goods, into construction scams and large-scale business manipulation. She had money, control, and influence, and she used all of it without hesitation. But on that fateful afternoon, the empire she had helped build collapsed. So how did she get there? How did a young woman from the Western Cape go from an ordinary life to running a multi-million rand underground empire, only to watch it all disappear? To understand Nicole's downfall, we have to go back to the beginning. Nicole didn't grow up surrounded by wealth. She was raised in a tough part of the Western Cape, where survival often meant making hard choices. In many neighborhoods, crime wasn't just a choice, it was the only way to get by. Cape Town streets had their own rules, and Nicole learned them quickly. She studied people, watched how money moved, and figured out how the strong stayed in charge. Even as a teenager, she had a gift for understanding others, what scared them, what drove them, and how to use that knowledge to her benefit. But Nicole wasn't just clever. She was driven. She didn't want to struggle like so many around her. She wanted more money, more power, and more respect. Then came the turning point, she met Ralph Stanfield. At the time, Nicole was trying to build a life for herself. She had tried various jobs, experimented with small business ideas, and avoided the traps that many young women fell into. Ralph wasn't just another street figure, he led the feared 28's gang, known throughout South Africa. His name meant danger and dominance. Most would have been scared of him. Nicole wasn't. She didn't want to protect her, she wanted to build an empire. And Ralph saw something in her. At first, he tested her. Gave her small tasks, handling cash, overseeing packages, managing front companies that hid their real operations. She nailed every responsibility. Before long, she wasn't just useful, she was essential. Nicole wasn't satisfied with maintaining the empire, she wanted to grow it. She learned how the illegal supply chains worked, how bribes were paid to keep law enforcement away, and how to disguise everything under legitimate-looking businesses. And she didn't stop there. Nicole had a sharp eye for opportunity. Whether it was real estate, laundering money, or expanding distribution routes, she made it happen. She wasn't just Ralph's partner in marriage. She became his equal in business, and in crime. Their operations weren't limited to the streets. Ralph's power reached far beyond, into industries with billions in contracts. Their biggest source of wealth came through construction, where they allegedly manipulated large infrastructure projects using threats, bribes, and rigged bids. At the center of this strategy was Nicole. Instead of robbing banks or moving illegal goods on the streets, they figured out how to exploit the system from the inside. On paper, it looked legal. All they needed was a front company, something that looked clean, something that could win government deals. That's where Glomix House Brokers came in. The plan behind their success was simple, but it worked brilliantly. Nicole's company, Glomix House Brokers, was set up to look like a real construction firm. To win major government deals, they falsely claimed to meet Black Economic Empowerment (BEE) requirements, rules designed to help genuine Black-owned businesses succeed. But instead of helping the community, they hijacked opportunities meant for honest entrepreneurs. Once the contracts were approved, what followed was a scam in plain sight. Some projects were finished with poor quality, some were handed over to crews tied to gangs, and many weren't completed at all. Yet, payments still came in. Millions flowed into their accounts with little to no actual work being done. One of the biggest and most public projects linked to their network was the King Air Industria development, a massive project worth 3 billion rand, located near Cape Town International Airport. On the outside, it looked like a dream project. It promised new infrastructure, more jobs, and economic uplift for the local community. But behind all the flashy ads and hopeful promises, there was a darker reality. At the heart of the entire operation was Nicole Johnson and her company. On paper, Glomix House Brokers looked clean. It had offices, contracts, and was trusted with handling large-scale developments. But when authorities started digging deeper, the truth slowly came out. Investigators found that the company had serious connections to illegal activities. Reports started to surface that Glomix was being used not just for construction, but also to hide money and push out competitors using threats and pressure. What looked like a successful business was actually a front for a much larger scheme. One key revelation came when it was confirmed that Glomix had received 7.2 million rand, around $390,000, for its supposed role in the King Air Industria project. But there were serious questions about where the money went, how the work was done, and whether any real progress had been made at all. What started as a fake business on paper had turned into a pipeline for massive fraud. And Nicole was running it with expert precision. The issue wasn't just the money Glomix received. It was how they got the deals in the first place. These weren't contracts earned through fair bidding or smart business tactics. They were taken through fear and control. Nicole and Ralph didn't depend on quiet backroom deals to grow their empire. Instead, they used a much more aggressive method, an organization called the Cape Flats Liberators. On the surface, this group, led by Ralph's sister, claimed to fight for local empowerment and give a voice to the community. But to many, it was nothing more than a front, a tool to dominate the construction sector and push out anyone who stood in their way. Behind the scenes, companies connected to Nicole and Ralph were allegedly using threats and intimidation to win contracts. Rival firms trying to compete often faced serious consequences, damaged equipment, vandalized offices, and in some cases, threats to their safety. Refusing to go along with their demands didn't just risk business losses, it could put lives at stake. The deeper authorities looked, the more they realized the scale of the operation. The money coming in from these shady construction deals wasn't just used for expansion. It was fueling an entire underground network, paying off officials, maintaining influence, and keeping their power untouched. The construction business was the perfect disguise. It gave them access to public funds and allowed them to clean their earnings while pretending to be legitimate players in the industry. But Nicole didn't stop with construction. She also entered the beauty world. She owned 2 luxury sorbet salons that served Cape Town's wealthier clientele. These polished, upscale businesses helped her blend into elite circles and gave her empire a clean image, one that hid the darker reality underneath. For years, Nicole Johnson and Ralph Stanfield walked through Cape Town like untouchable power figures. Their money flowed, their reach grew, and law enforcement couldn't gather enough proof to stop them. They were feared by many and respected by those who benefited from their success. But in their world, loyalty meant everything. And betrayal? That came with a heavy price. Everything started to unravel with one critical mistake: someone inside their circle stole from them. An employee who handled money decided to take a cut for himself, 1 million rand, around $55,000. In their eyes, that wasn't just theft, it was a direct insult, a bold challenge to their authority. Nicole and Ralph were furious. There would be no second chances. The moment they found out, the hunt began. Word spread quickly through the underworld. Ralph took it personally. He didn't wait for others to act. He went straight to the thief's father, demanding answers, and it wasn't a friendly conversation. It wasn't just a conversation, it was an interrogation. Terrified for his life, the man's father gave up what little information he had. His son had vanished, but left behind his girlfriend's black BMW 320i at a gated complex in Milnerton. That was all Ralph Stanfield needed. Ralph and his crew stormed the complex, pushing their way through without hesitation. A concerned neighbor tried to stop them, not knowing who he was dealing with. He was immediately attacked, left bruised and beaten as the group moved toward the car. Without hesitation, they took the BMW, claiming it as their own. But this wasn't just about recovering stolen money, it was about sending a message. In their world, no one crossed them and walked away untouched. But this time, their boldness backfired. Law enforcement had been watching Nicole and Ralph for years. They suspected the couple was involved in serious organized activities, but they never had enough proof to act. Until now. Their reckless raid left a clear trail: assault, vehicle theft, impersonation, and fraud, finally enough to bring them down. In September 2023, a dramatic police raid shattered the silence in Constantia. Nicole and Ralph were arrested at their luxury home. The empire they built began to collapse, fast. The news rocked Cape Town. What had been whispered for years was now out in the open. Nicole Johnson and Ralph Stanfield were no ordinary couple, they were the faces behind a powerful criminal network. But the arrests were just the beginning of a much deeper legal nightmare. Nicole and Ralph both tried multiple times to get bail, but the courts refused. In October 2023, the Western Cape High Court denied Nicole's request, stating she had a record of lying and manipulating evidence. The judge believed that if released, she could interfere with the ongoing investigation. Nicole argued that her arrest was destroying her businesses and deeply affecting her 15-year-old daughter, but the court wasn't swayed. Given the severity of the charges and her alleged ties to organized crime, she was deemed a high-risk individual. As court battles continued, her business world started to fall apart. The city of Cape Town officially blacklisted her companies, stripping them of all public contracts and cutting off a major source of income. Her beauty salons, once symbols of success, were now surrounded by scandal. The franchise she worked under quickly distanced itself from her name. Things got even worse in early 2025. Investigators found that Nicole's own mother was listed as a key signatory in a tender application, raising major questions about fraud within her own family. Then, in January, new charges were filed against both Stanfield's younger brother and Nicole's mother, painting a clear picture: this wasn't just a couple, it was a full-blown network. But Nicole's story didn't end with fake contracts and intimidation. New evidence revealed another disturbing chapter: her connection to the illegal performance-enhancing trade. The link came during a major trial involving Brian Weinstein, known before his death as the Steroid King. Weinstein had supplied banned substances to markets around the world before his assassination in 2017. His case remained unsolved for years, until a breakthrough in 2024. In October of that year, one of Weinstein's former bodyguards stepped forward with explosive testimony. He claimed that Nicole Johnson was directly involved in smuggling anabolic steroids, long before Weinstein's death. According to him, Nicole was not a side player, but a major figure, handling transport routes, negotiating deals, and managing international supply lines. She knew the business, and she ran it well. The bodyguard, whose identity remains hidden for safety, explained that Nicole had strong ties to suppliers both inside South Africa and abroad. She used her skills and influence to move products without detection. And the evidence? It was solid. A recorded phone call between Nicole and the bodyguard was presented in court. In it, she could be heard discussing different steroid types, pricing, and shipment logistics. Prosecutors used this as clear proof of her involvement, showing the court that she wasn't just dabbling, she was deep in the game. The bodyguard added that Nicole continued making profits from this trade even after Weinstein's death, proof that her criminal ties ran wide and deep. The trial is still underway. But one thing is clear: South Africa's most powerful female figure in the underworld has fallen. Whether through betrayal, exposure, or the collapse of everything she built, Nicole Johnson has finally met her end.